Good evening, everybody. I'm Jake Sherman, founder of Punchbowl News. Thank you so much for joining us for an evening pop-up conversation with Shelley Capito, Republican of West Virginia. She's here, I promise. This is not a bait and switch. We're going to be talking news of the day and energy policy. Big thank you to Southern Company for hosting us and making this conversation possible. Afterward, I'll be joined by Chris Womack, President and CEO of Southern Company, for a fireside chat, and we encourage you to stick around for drinks, not a tough sell, and networking after the program. As a quick reminder, you can find Punchbowl News on all social media platforms at punchbowl.news. And with that, I'd like to welcome Senator Capito to the stage.
Thank you, Jay. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks. Get over here.
Okay, We'll start with some news of the day quickly. So I want to talk to you quickly about last night. President gave his first not State of the Union address to Congress. Not very different. The longest, I think, in history.
An hour, 39 minutes, and 41 seconds.
Did you? I
had a bet that it was going to be more than 100 minutes, and I lost it by 19 seconds.
Oh, my God, really?
I did. Blake Moore, ask him about it.
Mike Johnson said to me before we went in, he was setting the over-under at 4 hours, and I said, please pray that this is not going to be 4 hours. So what were your takeaways, excuse me, from that?
Well, I think the president's speech in and of itself, I think, was pretty much what we expected from him, followed along with his campaign of safer borders, tax relief, energy development, and in the international front. He got a little bit into ag, a little bit into education, some of the social issues. I think so. That I think was a fairly predictable set of aspirational goals for him, and I think he talked a little bit about what he'd already done, and then the spirit in there was dispiriting because the other side just refused to even participate or even be what I would term as polite and respectful, and so that went on. But then after a while, you just forget about that.
Yep.
And then I think. I thought it was good. I thought it was successful, and then he throws his little humor things in there that are
on the script.
Not on the script, and some of them I think have come back to bite him today. But I don't think he cares.
He does not.
No,
we know that about him. Mm-hmm. Next week, a week from Friday, I believe it is the deadline for government funding, which is never an easy process, never a dull moment with government funding. The House is preparing or really all four corners are preparing a clean CR to extend government funding until the end of September. Do you have confidence, any confidence? I know the answer is no, but I just will ask it like that anyway, that this will play out in a non-dramatic fashion.
Well, it's always dramatic when you're going up against a deadline, especially when the headlines are, government shutdown looming. I always say government shutdown is a road to nowhere. Nobody's happy. What happens when the government shuts down? You have to reopen the government.
Correct.
And it really causes a lot of stress on veterans, Social Security, individuals that really count on the government to be able to keep the lights on or keep their homes warm. And so I think as it looks like it's going to pan out now, we're expecting the House to pass something Tuesday.
They say.
And then they're leaving. We've been down this road before. And
then they throw it over to you.
Yes, but my concern is we haven't seen it. We don't know. We've heard things that what are in anomalies and what extra things might be on there. There's concern and a concerted front to get more into the defense because it would definitely hamper new starts and other things. But, in the end, I think it will be passed, and I think probably before midnight on Friday.
That is very hopeful. Tuesday is the right timeline. I think it will be. I think I'll take the bullish view here and say it's going to be less dramatic than we think. But I agree with you 100%. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about reconciliation, which we'll talk more about in a second. House passed its reconciliation bill, its budget resolution, not its bill. It is very heavy on cuts. It is not the plan that the Senate had preferred, which was a two-step process.
Right.
$1.5 trillion in cuts is a lot.
It's a lot.
How do you view that?
Well, we're in the process. We have a framework. And we have to pass the budget. You have to pass identical budgets before the committees can really go to work on how the details of those cuts or taxes or whatever are specifically enumerated. Since it's assigned to Energy and Commerce, the assumption has been in the press and others that this will be Medicaid. Medicaid's a large driver. It's more money now than Medicare, but it's also 501,000 West Virginians that are on Medicaid. And I'm not the only state that has a large portion of their population getting health care that way. And so it's a tread lightly time in terms of looking at that. The president says he doesn't want to cut benefits, but I think they have left the door open to look at Medicaid in terms of not just waste, fraud, and abuse, but better ways for the program to work better for the people that are on it, whether it's looking at some of the FMAP, whether it's looking at work requirements and things of this nature were deemed to generate not 1.5 trillion, but something.
Not even close.
After that, we will probably look at what DOGE is doing, but there's a thought that that really is not reconcilable. It's a year-to-year appropriations that they're sort of focusing on. In my space at EPW, we'll be looking at we're going to take down the methane fee, which has already been taken down by a CRA, but also we're going to grab back some of the IRA grants that haven't gone out the door yet. They did, as we know, at a flurry at the end of December. So we're looking at that, but that's not near enough to pay. There may be some other tax adjustments in there. And so I think we're at the beginning. Well, we're past the beginning, but we're still in the early stages of how this is going to all flesh out.
I still think it is the beginning, right? I mean, I think this could be a fall, summer, fall.
I guess Jason Smith said today we want it done by Memorial Day.
Yes.
Okay.
You think that's? I think that's a bit hopeful.
That's a bit hopeful. I mean, just our experience in 2017 with the tax relief in and of itself, it's just much, much more complicated, and every push has a pull.
Yep.
And it's funny, Rob Portman was in our lunch the other day when we were talking about this, and he was one of the architects, particularly on the international tax issues, that were very successful in bringing those dollars home and stopping inversions and everything. And of course, I asked him, "Is it deja vu?" He says, "Yes." And I said, I remember at the end it got down to a couple things: pass-throughs for small businesses, child tax credit. And so I imagine we'll go through that again.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about energy policy, the topic of the night. Let's talk about what's the current policy for moving energy policy forward, and give me some of your priorities. I mean, this is a huge issue for you. It's a major priority for you. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think, energy is, we had one of the utilities must be in town because I had a bunch of them today. And Southern is obviously here hosting us very nicely, so thanks to them. Energy, let's see, electricity generation is becoming sexy again. This is the world I live in.
Who knew?
Yeah. I told my husband, don't put "she loved infrastructure" on my tombstone. That sounds so boring. But
she loved Congress.
She loved Congress, yeah. So anyway, this is going to be a big topic for a lot of reasons, obviously internationally, but in domestically in terms of AI and data centers and all the reports of where we're going to fall short in our energy to meet our energy needs and our energy desires. And so I think it's going to be the issue. I'm a all of the above person. I come from a coal and natural gas state, so I'm pro coal, pro natural gas, but I'm pro nuclear, pro renewables. We're going to need it all. But we got to build, and that's going to be a real challenge. So we're going to focus on that a lot in our committee in conjunction with energy and natural resources and also our House partners.
So
that's a bipartisan issue.
Let's talk about the administration. EPA has Lee Zeldin, who you knew probably from Congress. Doug Burgum, Interior Secretary. Talk about your interactions with them so far. I mean, are they working the Hill pretty well?
I think one of the strongest teams the president's put together is his energy team. Chris Wright is known to be a phenomenal innovator, very well liked and respected in the field, a brilliant kind of guy. I didn't meet him until he came in to talk with me. I noticed his head nodding a lot. He was sitting right in front of me last night when the president was talking about energy, and Doug Burgum was in front of me. It's always great to have a governor from an energy-producing state that borders Canada is a good thing. And
51st state.
The 51st state. And so I think they're you're not starting at square one here. You're not starting with some folks in that space. And same with Lee Zeldin that don't have either a knowledge of some of the real specifics of what it takes to generate energy, to discover and explore, and then the finances that go with it. So that to me is exciting. And I think that there's been a pause, and those of you know this a lot, in some of these agencies on some of the grants and some of the things going out. I think those will loosen up as in the short term. But I think going forward, they're going to be more heavily scrutinized to see if there's something we want to keep doing or how we want to change that.
You brought up nuclear. I want to talk about nuclear for a second. There's tell us a bit about the Nuclear Energy and Advance Act that passed in July. What will it do, and why was that important from your perspective?
Yeah, I come at nuclear from I think a bit of a different viewpoint. I'd never been to well, actually, that's not true. I did go to a nuclear plant in France. How about that? Yeah. Here I am bragging again. And
humble brag is what the kids call it.
Yeah. And we went actually to the reprocessing, where they were processing the waste in France. But anyway, I went to a nuclear, my first, because I was the subcommittee chair. Talk about you get these assignments. There's subcommittee chair in nuclear energy. So went to see a nuclear energy facility. I think it was AEP in Michigan. And then our state, which is very pro-coal, which said you can't build any other kind of power generation but coal. That's how powerful the coal folks have been in our state for many, many years, has just recently, over the last 3 years, opened up our state of West Virginia to nuclear. And so that really got me going in terms of learning about the commission, but also learning about small modular nuclear reactors. They're different. They're more contained. They're more mobile. They're much in demand. They're being built around the world. We need to be the leader here. But then looking at the bureaucratic process of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission that goes along with it, which is like moving the Titanic. It's a bureaucracy that's recommissioning, old nuclear plants when these are different types of technology. So we decided that we need to get involved here to push them and to push the innovation. And there's a lot of interest here. And you see, like in Texas, I think one of the big, I don't know if it was Google or whoever, Microsoft is entered into an agreement to build, I think, 2 SMRs in Texas. I might not have the number exactly right, to power their AI.
Yep.
And thought to be a solution here. For me in West Virginia too, and I'll just add this in the Advance Act, it's bipartisan. Sheldon Whitehouse, who's my ranking member, was one of the active members on the Democrat side, which is really good because we have some very common ground there. In it says that if you have a retired coal plant facility, like brownfield type of thing, but you have your generation there, that you should be favored to bring in these SMRs. I mean, that makes sense. Yep. They're doing that in Wyoming, or going to be doing that in Wyoming. That's good for my state too, because that's a job creation. That's the jobs in those areas for people to stay. I did learn nuclear facilities are much heavier on personnel than some of the other energy generation plants.
What else should be done on nuclear in this Congress, or do you have hopes for additional things this Congress on nuclear?
We do. I mean, we're looking at 2.0. Everything has a 2.0. We're looking at that.
Why they keep you around?
We're going to do oversight over the commission to make sure they are moving, and they are,
yep,
in the direction that we think the bill instructed them to go, and to try to push the innovation along with the Department of Energy to see that. I asked somebody who wanted to be on the NRC. He's now on the NRC, and I said, well, when's the first SMR going to be built in the United States? He goes, 2029. I'm like, oh, in your dreams. I mean, by the time you get through the environmental and the licensing and everything else, I hope that's when it's true, but you're looking into the 2030s.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about one area you focused a lot on, and something that we've reported a lot on over the years is permitting reform, mm-hmm, which has kind of been a white whale.
Stop and start, would you say?
White whale, so to speak. what is the future of permitting reform? And I mean, you'll remember, I think you'll definitely remember, but there was interest from Trump the first time. There was interest from Biden. There's always interest, and it always just kind of is too complicated, so to
Right.
speak.
Well, yeah, there have been a lot of stops and starts here. You know, I tend to be a very optimistic person, and I'm just going to be that way because that's how I think I was born that way, and I'm going to stay that way. So I feel good about this. I feel we've opened the discussion between the four leaders on ENR and on EPW. I had Chairman Carper before. We worked well together, but we just couldn't get there. He had some hesitations there. And so as much as I tried to push it, it just wasn't. You saw that on the Energy Committee, Manchin and Barrasso were able to get a bill, and we wanted to load in some things in there that were in our jurisdiction, and I could tell they're like, no, we'll never get this passed. Well, they were probably right on that. But so then we go to the House, and it's Westerman and it's transportation and Guthrie now over at E&C. So we're having all these conversations with our Democrat counterparts to try to move. So I want to see it be agnostic as to what it is. It's a highway project, a broadband project, an energy project, a solar project, a coal project. If you can get the permits, you should be able to move forward. One of the problems, and you probably reported on this a lot, was our Mountain Valley Pipeline.
Oh, yeah.
Remember it? That
I do.
Took an act of Congress to get passed. It was 95% complete. It was just getting spiraled into the courts all the time. And so some way to pull in the judicial review. If you don't get the answer that you want in 90 or 180 days, it's over for you, either side.
Yep.
And so we want to try to move that. I think that's a bipartisan, maybe a heavier lift for some of the Democrats, but I think they're interested in it because they have projects that are sitting on the shelf. They're renewable projects, and a lot of their renewable projects are in places where there's no transmission.
Yep.
So, you got to transmit, you got to permit. And so I feel good about it. Devil's in the details.
Could this be a reconciliation thing, or does that not fit reconciliation?
I don't think so. I don't think it can, reconciliation is to do with the budget and revenues. I mean, I don't want to say never, but here's where I think we're really doing a disservice to any project is the wild swings from administration to administration. So you get your permit under Trump, he leaves, then you get your...
How do you stop that? I mean, isn't that just...
You pass a law.
Right, that says, yeah.
And that's why I think this is going to be really important.
Yeah.
Because the swings are just too costly and don't get us to where we need to go.
Well, I have a question on that specifically. You brought this up at the top, but I want to dig in a little bit more with the IRA and where that lands in reconciliation. You talked about clawing back some grants that have not gone out. West Virginia, not surprisingly, benefited a lot from the IRA in the Biden administration. So, like, what does that balance look like? How do you thread that needle? Because there are those in your party who say, rip everything out, lock, stock, and barrel, and move on. The Chip Roy has said that the House is a different place, as you've served in both. But how do you view that?
I see the IRA in really two buckets. I see the tax advantages that were brought forward, and then I see all these billions and billions of dollars of grants that have gone here, there, and everywhere. And honestly, I mean, this is my opinion, total waste of money. I mean, really, billions of dollars of wasted money. And so we're going to claw back what hasn't been already granted, and probably try to claw back the $20 billion that's sitting in Citibank that had been awarded but hasn't been all out the door. We're not really sure what mechanism the EPA used to transfer that money to the Citibank before it actually went out the door. So there's a lot of questions about that, but I'll leave that to the lawyers and EPA to figure out. And so we'll try to claw that back. Part of the EV mandate's going to fall, and the tax incentives, that's not in my committee, but that will fall. But if you look at, when you mentioned that we've benefited as a state, we have a particular, I'll name a particular example, Form Energy, which is a battery plant that was built on an old Weirton steel, which was a massive, probably 20,000 people worked there at the height of the steel industry, right, very close to Pittsburgh. and really sad for the community with the downturn of everything, shuttered buildings and people leaving and everything. Well, this Form Energy came in. It's a what is it? Breakthrough. What is Bill Gates? Breakthrough Energy. It's one of their projects, and it's a battery really for utility companies, power generation, to back up in peaking times, but also if there's an outage of some sort. And so it's kind of special. It's not like a battery in your phone. It's big.
Big batteries, yep.
Big. And they've gotten some money. They're employing, 700 people, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in our little state, that's a lot. So I'm not interested in pulling back all of these tax incentives that have created jobs such as that. I think the Finance Committee will probably look at them all.
Yep.
But some of them might get reshaped. They may not be as long. They may not be as generous. And some of them may be retracted, but it's not a throw the whole thing out. I don't think that's the prevailing opinion.
Two more questions, and then I'm going to get the hook. Just a few weeks ago, West Virginia was granted authority. I'm going to simplify for the ease of everyone's understanding, but the authority to oversee carbon capture in your state,
right.
Which is a big win for West Virginia. I mean, talk about that and explain what that means for West Virginia from a energy and jobs perspective.
Well, here's how I would explain it. There are different types of wells for sequestering different things, and different types of wells that you drill for natural gas and other things, and water. And the state is the prime permitter or regulator for this. But there was no provision. There were no provisions in the law to say that you can regulate and establish the permit for a carbon dioxide to capture carbon. It's a specialized kind, I'm sure, that's as far as I know, geologically, okay?
More than most people, I would say.
Yeah. So, and they're called Class 6 wells. So in the bill, I believe it's in the IJA, it allowed for states to get the primacy there. And every state, I wouldn't say every person, but a lot of people want their own states to be looking over their air and their water and their terrain. And West Virginia has very special and beautiful terrain. Please go. It's very close. And so 4 states, I'll give you, North Dakota got it first. See Burgum. He knows all about this. Wyoming got the primacy. Louisiana got their primacy. And West Virginia is the 4th state. And it was interesting because we got it the day before the inauguration.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, January 19th, which was like a Sunday, which was very odd. But we've been really pushing it. And our DEP and everybody have really been working hard on it. So we're really excited about it. But Burgum told a story when we went to the signing that Lee Zeldin signed this. He said that when the state of North Dakota was able to retain the primacy, and they've permitted 8 or 9 of these wells in 3 years, whereas the federal EPA has permitted 2 in 7 years.
Yep.
And that the investment, the money that comes with something like this is not insignificant. So for me and for West Virginia, I think that sounds great.
So one of my favorite topics is is transportation reauthorization, which you're going to have.
You have a boring life.
Yeah, well.
Do you want me to put that on your tombstone? Yeah. He loved the reauthorization.
My wife will take care of that for me. He lived a very boring life. He covered Congress. That comes up in September 26th. How should we be thinking about that now? Are you already thinking about renewal? Are you thinking about priorities? And so give us some of your cliff notes right now, what you want to be changed, what you want to be done.
Well, I think to go back to the last bill that we wrote, remember it was written in committee. It went through the committee process. Yep. Carper and I, we had unanimous. We're talking Jim Inhofe and Bernie Sanders voted for it. And it became the foundational aspects, along with the Clean Water and Wastewater Bill, of the IIJA. And so we want to look at that. So we've already had a hearing on what's working, what isn't. We have our own ideas of where we would like to see. We'd like to see more formula money going to the states. So here again, the states can make their own decisions. And some of these specialized that were created programs under President Biden have really gotten off the ground, sadly, very effectively. So, what's working, what isn't working. So we're going to keep doing this. and doing oversight to see what works, what's not working. There's a huge bridge program in there, which I was the main author of, because we have so many bridges in our little state because of the mountains, and every state has deficiencies in bridges. Safety is a big issue, flexibility for our states. I'm excited about it. People get excited about it's something you can really bring home to your constituents and say, look, this is
Touches
something we
every
worked
part
on
of the
together.
economy.
It really does.
I mean,
it really does. And so we're revving it back up.
Revving it back up. Senator Capito,
Yeah.
thank you very much for
you,
a lot of
Jay.
time. I
Appreciate it.
And now we're going to welcome your closing act, Chris Womack, the CEO of Southern Company.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. How are you?
Good to see you.
Thanks for hosting us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Always a pleasure to have you here.
We're going to have them do a buddy act, actually. Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Very
it.
much. Good afternoon.
So let's get to it. Set the stage for us a little bit. Southern Company has been quite busy over the last couple of years. And you, by the way, you told me you sit on the edge of your seat, and you actually do. You're really on the edge of your seat. I like it.
I'm always on the edge of my
You're ready
seat.
to rumble. Yes.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Tell us what the company's been up to. What are some of the exciting things you've been doing?
First of all, welcome everybody. Thanks. It's a pleasure to have you in our house. We enjoy hosting people at our home and sharing all the things that we do with you. And so it's indeed a pleasure to have you here. I start most of my conversation with Southern Company is a great company. We have some 28,000 teammates each and every day, work safely and do what they can to serve the needs of all of our 9 million customers. But we also take time to make sure that we are investing in the communities where we have the privilege of living and working and doing whatever we can to make it better. And we're at an incredible, I think, I've said it a number of different ways, but I say it like this. We're on the threshold of some incredible opportunities, particularly in the energy space. When you see the growth opportunities that are occurring in energy, when energy has been rather dormant, growing 1 or 1.5% on a good year for the past couple of decades or more. And when you see what we see now in terms of incredible economic expansion across our territory, and then the energy demand that's coming from all the artificial intelligence and data center activities, it's just an incredible historic opportunity that is in front of us. And so, and all the things that we're doing now to make sure we take full advantage of these opportunities for the benefits of all of our customers, all of our communities, in terms of supporting the growth and prosperity there. It's just an incredible time. It's something that I'm just incredibly excited about. So there's a lot going on, and I'm, glad to wherever you want to go, how much you want to talk about it. I'm glad to talk about it with you.
And you big milestone for the company was completing a plant whose name I'm gonna mess up, but VOGTLE.
Yeah, you want to do it phonetically?
No, I'm not good at reading and writing, although it's my job. So I should be better at it.
Yeah.
But tell us about that.
So Plant Vogel.
Vogel. But why is the T?
Well, because it was named after Alvin Vogel.
There you go. What a good answer.
You ever watched The Great Escape?
I have.
And that was Alvin Vogel,
Yeah.
who was the character there that was represented in the name of this plant. So back in the mid 2000s, and we already had 6 nuclear plants, 2 in Alabama, 4 in Georgia. We've always enjoyed incredible operations from these nuclear facilities in terms of providing this reliable, affordable power. And so we saw the need and the opportunity to do more. And so we embarked on this incredible journey, this incredible vision. And we thought we were going to be on this journey with a lot of other partners. We thought it was going to be about 2 or 3 others, maybe 4, maybe 5 that would be with us. But lo and behold, we end up as a Lone Ranger.
You're out there alone.
Out there alone.
Uh-huh.
But Southern Company, guess what?
You got it done.
We can do hard things.
Yep.
And so from start to finish, from, all the things we went through, from Fukushima in Japan to the contractor going bankrupt to this incredible idea of modular construction in terms of building some components in other parts of the country, like Lake Charles, Louisiana, and bringing it to Waynesboro, Georgia, and hoping we could put this puzzle together. Well, if the puzzle pieces are not properly designed and the scale and measurements are not right, that doesn't work. So we had to make some adjustments there. The contractor went bankrupt. Then we had to go get parent guarantees to make sure we can continue to move forward financially. And then lo and behold, in 2020, guess what happened? COVID.
Yep.
And so we basically had productivity at something less than 0%. But at the same time, we knew we could not allow the plant site to be shut down, because it was shut down. I don't care how much work Jeannie and Noel and Brian and the entire team and all the others of you who support us here. I'm not sure if we could have gotten the unit back started again. From licensing and regulatory perspectives, but also from labor. I mean, because the workers would have gone somewhere else, it would have been incredibly difficult. So we brought in a medical village. I mean, we were doing COVID testing. We brought in vaccines and kits from Birmingham. We had some earlier than that were made for the general public. But we kept the project going. And so, yeah, I mean, and this is 2025. So in 2023, when we brought Unit 3 online, and then last year, bringing Unit 4 online, it was a big deal. I mean, it was a big deal for us as a company. It was a big deal for the state. And I think an incredible big deal for the country to show we could do this, because we hadn't done this in over 30 years. And so we had lost the supply chain. We had lost the ability to do this. And so us getting that done was such a huge accomplishment. And it was incredible, great pride for the company. I mean, we celebrated for about 6 months. You know, every time somebody came down, we threw another party.
6 months straight, huh?
Oh, 6 months straight. I mean, we drank a lot of mocktails, but we had a blast doing it, because it was such a huge accomplishment, something that we're proud of, and I think sets the stage for. And if we knew then what we know now, you know, I'm not sure what we've done different, but it's like it is so wonderful to have these units online with this incredible capacity, the need that we're seeing to have these resources available. And it shows this country that it can be done, because I think to meet this growing demand, there's got to be more nuclear being built in this country. I mean, I say very, very clearly, in the next couple of years, this country needs to make a commitment to build at least 10 more nuclear units, big units, AP1000s, not the small modulars, but the big plants. So that sometimes in the mid-30s, they'll be available to support all this growth. But that's a commitment this country's got to make.
So that's a nice segue into my next question, which is this administration's just come in. So
Yeah.
it's not, you know, it's only 40-something days. They've done a lot so far. Yeah. There's a lot more they're going to do. They're talking a lot about energy. Yeah. There's a lot flying out there. Right. Tough for all of us to get our bearings. But what are give me some of your top priorities with this administration and this Congress that Southern Company wants to get done. I mean,
I love the focus of this administration. I love the language. I love the narrative. I mean, energy dominance, energy abundance, all those kind of things, and recognizing the importance of energy and the role it plays to supporting this economy, but also the role it plays to supporting our national security. And even more important than that is the role that energy plays in helping this country maintain its leadership, its number one position, its pole position as it relates to technology. I mean, we're the leader of the world for technology. And in order to continue to maintain that posture and that position, guess what you have to have? You have to have energy. You have to have power. And so I love the conversation. I love the effort to do things in terms of building more infrastructure, whether it's pipelines to support gas build outs, or building more transmission to support connecting resources together all across this country. We got to get some permit reforms, because we got to move a lot faster. I mean, speed matters in all these conversations. And so when you listen to the conversations with the administration, it's incredibly exciting. And then, I mean, our dogma for many years has been all of the above, in terms of whether it's nuclear, whether it's gas, whether it's coal, whether it's renewables. Making sure we're utilizing all those resources. I think it's, like I said, to hear the administration speak that language is something that I'm thrilled and pleased to hear.
Let me go back to something you just said a minute ago, which is the increase in demand.
Yeah.
We keep hearing this everywhere we go, everyone we talk to, with AI and data centers and all this stuff. Quantify that for us. Like how I know you said you need a number of large nuclear plants, but just give us a sense of just the rate and change in usage and in need for energy.
All right, you want a perspective.
Yes.
This economy today is powered by some 4 trillion kilowatt hours.
Okay.
You got a perspective on that? You know what 4 trillion kilowatts look like?
No, but I understand the number 4. So if you tell me what it's going to need, I'll just say, okay, that's more than 4.
So there's about 4 trillion kilowatts on a given day. Some people will say that needs to double at a minimum.
By in the short term, or like
You're looking at the latter part of this decade where it really begins to show up. And then as you move into the middle of the next decade, it's really where that hockey stick really continues to grow. And the question now people have is, does the hockey stick continue or will technology efficiencies occur that will bend that curve and flatten it out?
meaning things become more efficient.
Yeah, does deep seek work and other technologies, will it begin to be more efficient? Deep seek was a phenomenon for about a day and a half, and then the hockey stick continued. I mean, we've not seen lessening in the demand, lessening in the request. And we do a lot of work. I mean, we do a lot of deep thinking inside the company in terms of, because when we first started seeing it, we said, is this real? So you get confirmation of the reality. You understand the profile of the companies in terms of what their demand is and where should it be located, and then what are the risks associated, and then identifying those risks, and then what do we do to mitigate it? And then what's the price? I mean, what is it they're willing to pay? What is it for us in terms of cost to serve? But doing it in a different kind of way where it's not the cost to serve analysis that I'll do for a traditional home or a small McDonald's or a Chick-fil-A, but recognizing that what they need is going to cost a lot more, and making sure I don't spread that cost across my customer base, but I'm charging them market price for the services they want. And then I want a long-term commitment. I want a contract with them for somewhere between 10 and 15 years so I can get payback for the investment I'm making for them. If they decide to pick up and leave, then I've got that cost covered so I don't have to spread that across my customer base. But more importantly, as I do that, I get to drive prices down for the rest of my customers. So it provides incredible value and benefits to all of my customers. So all of my customers get to benefit from these new customers. So it's a lot of fun stuff. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, it's interesting because you don't. It's with all these new technologies, it's just tough to predict how you don't know what the end is going to look like. You don't really.
But you know it's going to be different.
For sure. Yeah.
It's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to do things a lot faster and quicker.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm going to be smarter because of it.
Maybe I won't, but maybe.
No, you won't. You just got to use it.
Yeah.
Got to deploy.
No, I agree. Before I let you go, we have a lot of staffers, industry people in the room and watching. I'm sure you spend more time than you'd like thinking about Washington, but or maybe the exact amount of time.
I don't think about Washington.
What is the one thing you want them to keep in mind when it comes to energy policy?
The importance, the foundational role that energy plays in supporting this economy. I think if they understand that this economy can't grow, can't thrive, can't advance without energy. Energy is essential for the advancement of our society and for our economy. And so I think understanding that, we're going to have some deep philosophical and policy conversations about whether it's all of the above or whether it's what happens to the IRA tax credits and permitting reform and different things. There's going to be a lot of policy conversations about all of those things. At the end of the day, I do think we have to develop a really comprehensive energy policy that gives us certainty, gives other parts of the energy economy certainty in terms of making the big investments that we have to make that will power and sustain this economy now and into the future.
undoubtedly those policy conversations are going to be very calm and measured and reasonable
they
on
are.
Capitol Hill.
Of course they are.
Unfortunately, it's time for us to close out the program portion of this evening. A big thank you to Senator Shelley Moore Capito and her staff, and to Southern Company, and to you, Chris, for making this event possible. Please do stick around for cocktails and conversation. Don't run out of the room all at once. I know that's the more exciting part, but thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.